Good morning, my friends. Welcome back to work. Hopefully, you all had a wonderful, wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully, you got some time to spend reflecting with your family, barbecuing, whatever it is you like to do. And today's special. I've been back to back since 7 this morning, but I have a scheduled conversation here that I'm going to share with you with a really, really, really close friend of mine. I've got a gentleman that's going to join us today that's been a mentor to me for a very long time. This guy's a high-level entrepreneur. He's a pastor at a church, and he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. This guy is the real deal. And, I think in life we all say we want to get in better shape. We want to feel better. We want to look better. We want to make more money. We want to live a better life. I think on the surface level, we all agree that we say those things. We all, from the baseline, we want those things, but a lot of times we're just not willing to do the things that give us those things. So today I've got Steve Mckinney joining us, and he is a resource and a guide to get those things. This book, The Gospel of Fitness, is an incredible manuscript. It's a wonderfully written book designed to motivate and inspire you, but to give you practical steps on how to get it done. This book is filled with profound wisdom, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But first, let me bring my boy on, Mr. Steve Mckinney in the house. How are you, Steve?
I'm good, bro. How are you?
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on this morning.
Well, I'm glad we just get to talk and hang out.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely.
You've been on like a tour. You've been on lots of stages. You've been on lots of podcasts over the last several weeks. First thing I want to talk to you about, and I'm going to have you give a quick intro, but first thing, because I was just talking to my people about your book here. Why'd you write this? What was the ambition for creating this? Why'd you write it in the first place, Steve?
I think that like one of my major reasons, and I write about this in the book, is my parents died at a very young age, and I think personally it was preventable. And obviously you can't always figure when people are going to live and die, but lifestyles do make a difference in that. And so for me, I looked at that and I'm like, man, they didn't have to die that young, and they could have lived longer. They had a better quality of life. I don't want anyone not to be able to enjoy their life. And for me, it's like, man, I get to enjoy my life, and I want others to enjoy their life. And then I also, Adam, as you know, I've been training people for over 30 years, and I've been preaching this different style of training. It's just very unique in the way that I go about it. It's very efficient, and it's a lifestyle change. And so I want to introduce people to I think what's a proper way to train. And
love it. Before we get into it, because I got a lot of questions.
Sure.
I hope you're ready, man. I got a lot of
I'm always ready, bro.
Because this is one of those books that I did write a lot of notes in. There were some aha moments. There were some things that stuck out to me, like, holy cow, I can't believe this. We're going to talk about those things. But before we get into it, if you could give us a little background on you. Who are you, Steve?
So obviously, Steve Mckinney. I've been training a personal fitness trainer for over 30 years. I'm a pastor of a church. I am a jiu-jitsu black belt. I run a jiu-jitsu school with my son. He's the main guy in there, but part of the business as well. Husband to a wonderful lady who I love dearly, and I have two boys, both Kyle and Josh, and their spouses. And I have a grandson who's an absolute joy, who's upstairs right now. And we got up early this morning, and we went strawberry picking. And so the thing with strawberry picking, look, it's torture, bro. Just go to Schnucks and get strawberries. I'm out there picking. I'm thinking, is this like, I feel like I'm on the Shawshank Redemption right now, being punished and working in the chain gang. I'm bent over, my back hurts. It was miserable, but I acted like I enjoyed the whole thing. So
you got quality time with your grandson.
That's all it is, man.
Hey, that's all that matters.
It's a joy. He's just a blast. He's really fun. I just love hanging out with him.
So I want to get into this because what I really want is for people, whether they're going to see this live, some people will see it live.
How do I share this live, by the way? Where's it at?
If you go to my Facebook page, just share it to yours. Yeah, just go to mine. It's live. Just share it over. But the whole point is I want people to get a couple key takeaways out of this, that we're just a few decisions, in my
Mm.
opinion, a few decisions away from living the life of our dreams. I believe that. I think it's the decisions that we make on a daily basis and the habits that we form that will ultimately lead us to the good life. That's what I believe. And I want to get right to it because we talk about right at the beginning. You know, you had a conversation with one of your clients, and you're talking about the difference between, or talking about aging gracefully. Let's just get right into that. What is, I hear that term thrown around a lot. What does that really mean to age gracefully, Steve?
Well, here's the thing. The interesting thing about aging gracefully, Adam, it really, here's what it comes down to. You're going to age. You just are. And we try to run from that. And, we want to talk about, what it's like. But the biggest problem is that people don't understand the aging process. And basically, the aging process, what it comes down to is you really are losing energy in one of the biggest factors. Now, when it comes to aging gracefully, you're not only losing energy, but you're losing muscle. It's called sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss. And as people age, they lose muscle. There's just no way around it. What you want to do is the number one thing that I tell people is you want to keep that muscle on. The biggest problem, Adam, is that people, as they age, and I hear this all the time in my personal training business, people come in and they'll say, oh, I trained 5 days a week when I was in my 20s. And I want to do that again. I'm like, listen, that was in your 20s. You can get away with all kinds of stuff in your 20s. As you get to your 40s, every decade, it's more noticeable. So aging gracefully is understanding what is happening to your body in the middle of that. And sometimes you need a coach, someone who's been there. Obviously, I'm 64 years old now, so I've been through a few of the things. But then it's adjusting your lifestyle to be able to do the things that you love. For example, strawberry picking with my grandson. Wasn't the funnest thing in the world. I'm bent over in odd positions, but I can still do that. Another example is I train jujitsu 2 days in a row. Usually I train one day, but I'm like, oh, we had a couple of holidays there. So I did that. I still love doing that. Now, that doesn't mean that I walk into the gym and I go with the toughest guy every single time. That's crazy. But I get my rolls in. I have fun in the middle of that. But
you can. I mean, I know you will, but you still can. You can still hang with the young punks. I've seen it.
But it just takes days to recover. That's the one thing that I've noticed. So I pick and choose wisely. But I think aging gracefully is making the decisions to look at what you want to do, and then the things that you love to do, and then making the decisions to do them. And that takes discipline, but it becomes simple. It's not easy, but it becomes simple as you do it more and more. So,
yeah. So let me ask this question. You talk about lifting weights. When should someone start lifting? At what age? And when should they stop lifting?
yeah, never is the stop lifting thing. You never stop lifting,
Okay.
you should always be doing something. Now, as people get older, on a lot of the tours that I did, to the book tours, the one thing that I noticed, and I'll answer the original question, but the one thing I noticed, Adam, is joint issues. People have so many joint issues as they age. Part of aging gracefully is protecting your joints in the middle of that. So I'll go back and then I'll add to it. At age 35, that is when the age-related muscle loss begins. If you're not doing anything, it starts at age 35 for sure. In this day and age, I'm seeing it happen with younger people. I see people that come in 27, 28 years old with high cholesterol. I'm like, man, oh man, that is terrible. So you want to address those issues. But 35, it starts hitting people. So you want to make those adjustments at 35. At 35, you can still do a lot of stuff in the middle of that. But as each decade goes on, you could do less and less. And I'll go back to the joint issue. When I was on tour, I would have people, I do a question and answer at the end. I would have people ask tons of questions. And a lot of them is like, hey, listen, I can't get my shoulder above my head. What can I do? The answer to that is you can do isometric exercises. But the problem with joint pain is that the only way to fix your joint pain is joint replacement. that, once you get to that point. So one of the things that I see, Adam, in this world of fitness, we are dealing with influencers, right? But if you think about putting things out on social media, there's only so much information you could put out that's reliable and factual. And so for me, as you looked at the book, as you went through it, it is an easy read and it's simple. It's not fancy, but it works. It just works. And so what I do is I show people how to train their muscles and save their joints. Now, I'm going to tell you how I do that. And I do it in as few as 2 sessions per week, 2 15-minute sessions per week, okay? In the book, I start people out with 3 for the first 2 weeks. The reason I do that is I want them to understand how to do the exercise protocol. But the reason that you can do 2 per week, I had a guy in just a few weeks, a super nice guy, came in from Canada, and he was in town for a few months and wanted to train. So he comes in and goes, hey, I train 5 days a week. I train an hour and a half at a time. I'm like, bro, that's a part-time job. I don't have time to do that kind of stuff. I said, let's start you off at 3 days per week. Actually, he was real skeptical. Like, there's no way this is going to work for me. Usually takes me 2 exercises to convince people like that, just 2, abs and pull downs. Then they always look over their shoulder like, holy cow, I've never felt anything like that before. But if you think about this, Adam, you think about someone who goes in and train, we'll use hour as an example. They go in and train for an hour. They do a set, they rest. Maybe they rest for a minute, maybe 2 minutes in between exercises. If you look at the total time of exercise for that hour minus the rest, you're getting about 9 or 10 minutes of exercise,
right?
Honestly. So think about what I'm doing here. I'm doing a 15-minute session. What I'm doing here, and the reason I can do this is because the idea is to deeply inroad or stimulate muscle fiber. There are four different muscle fiber types. There's slow oxidative, fast oxidative, glycolytic, and fast glycolytic. Now, these muscle fiber types, Adam, they fatigue in what's called a sequential order, provided that there is tension on the muscle the whole time. That's why I use the principle of time under tension or time under load. I write about that in the book. So once you start to exercise, I go slow and controlled, connect your mind to the muscle. There's a reason for that as well. Everything I do has a reason. So once you start the exercise, the first muscle fiber type fatigues relatively quickly. The second one takes a little longer. The third one, you're in about the 45-second range. I like to keep people under the load right at maybe 50 to 90 seconds, 60 to 90 seconds. But what you're after is that 4th muscle fiber type, the fast oxidative glycolytic. And the reason for that is the thickest muscle fiber type, and it's the hardest to stimulate. So right when you hit that 45-second point, you're starting to get that burn. Your muscles are starting to shake. To me, that's when your set starts. So what we do is we stay slow and controlled. We go to muscular failure. And that 4th muscle fiber type takes anywhere from 2 to 20 seconds to stimulate. Meaning that I'm going to get to that 4th muscle fiber type, and it may go fatigue very, very quickly, or it may take 20 seconds. Either way, it's a quick fatigue. Here's what's interesting. It takes anywhere from 4 to 10 days for that muscle fiber type to recover. So now we need that extra rest, because a lot of people, what they do is they recover from exercise. They compensate from the exercise that they did, but they don't super compensate, meaning they can recover from the exercise by going in the next day, but that doesn't mean they're going to get stronger. So all this makes sense to you?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense to me. And this boils down to, you've got me thinking a little bit. Do you think a lot of us, and we'll just even use me for an example, do you think we're overtraining?
No question in my mind.
A lot of people are in the gym overtraining.
No question in my mind.
Yeah, because I see the same folks in the gym, and I love being in the gym. It's my safe place. I
understand.
And you see a lot of people going heavy and hard daily. That's not the right formula.
Well, you can get away with it for a while, but I use the word get away with it. At a certain point, it'll catch up with you in the form of an injury here or there, just a shoulder tweak. I got this, I got a knee problem, I got this hip thing going on. Try if I'm training, like, okay, let's say for you, as an example, you like kind of the bodybuilder training style. Most people do. There's nothing wrong with that. I do full body workouts. It just seems to fit jiu-jitsu better for me. But if I'm training a client, if I'm doing an individual training, sometimes I'll do, I have clients that I train online and I coach them. So what I would say is, you're going to do chest, shoulders, and triceps on Monday. You're going to do back and biceps on Wednesday, and you're going to do legs on Friday. You're only going to work out 3 days per week. Try that for a while. You'll find that you get stronger. You might even gain some muscle from it. Then here's what happens. You're going to get stronger, most likely. Here's what most people think. Oh, I'm stronger, I have to work out more. The exact opposite is true. You can increase your strength by up to 300%, but your recovery ability actually decreases with that increase in strength. So a bigger, stronger person should actually work out less if they want to gain muscle size. Now, most people think, well, I have to exercise because I need to keep my body fat levels under control. Body exercise is an incredibly inefficient way to lose body fat. You see people doing this all the time. They're on the treadmill for an hour. They haven't changed anything. The problem with overtraining, Adam, and with excessive exercise, it increases your cortisol level. And your cortisol level is catabolic. What I mean by that is it eats away muscle tissue and increases body fat levels. So why not age gracefully? Why not treat your body gracefully? Why not go in, hit it hard, allow your body to recover, give yourself way more time to do business, to do the things that you love to do. And instead of going in, day out, and using that as, this big need for things. The guy that I trained that came in was training 5 days a week, totally bought in. And he came in and we trained for the first few weeks. We trained 3 days a week and then we reduced him down. But he got incredibly strong in the middle of that, and much stronger than he would have had he trained every single day.
So what you're saying is less is more. And then
less
we've
is
got
more.
Tricia, Gospel of Fitness. And we're going to talk about this at the end and where to find Steve, but you go to Amazon, the Gospel of Fitness, you'll find it, and it'll be delivered to your house in a day. So highly recommend. But let me go ahead, Steve.
I was just going to add to that. When I talk about body fat levels, I say exercise is a very inefficient way. I think we did on the pre-interview, we talked a little bit about this. I go back to joint health, and I get referrals from doctors all the time, chiropractors, doctors, for people who have hip, knee, ankle injuries from running. And once again, I'll go back to this. There are some people who are outliers who can get away with it for a long period of time. Most people can't. Usually about 40 years old is when it starts hitting them. Excessive running begins to pound on the joints. I'm not saying you shouldn't run. I'm just saying you have to be careful. You have to allow your body to recover. But a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll run or they'll just do excessive exercise because they want to overeat. That's simply not the way to do it. Eventually your joints wear out, your body wears out. So how you control body fat levels are controlled by caloric intake. There's no other way around that. And I hear these arguments, I hear these doctors talk about, oh, you don't need to count calories. It's absolute nonsense. Of course you need to count calories. There's no way around it. Now they can dance around it any other way they want to. They can say, oh, you're going to use a low carbohydrate diet. So when your body gets fat adapted, you don't need to count calories because you won't be hungry. That's great in theory. But I also hear them when they go live on YouTube or something like that, someone will call in and say, hey, I'm not losing any weight. And their answer will be, oh, well, you're eating too much fat. Guess what? Fat's calories. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So once again, we're trying to dance, we're trying to use semantics, but the truth is going to be the truth. And the stuff that I write about is simply true. It's factual. It's not going to change. I can train and have trained high-level bodybuilders, high-level athletes using these same systems. I just adapt that to the person.
I want to ask you, because you have your own approach that you've created, innovated yourself. It's the 3W approach to fitness. let's talk through that. What is the 3W approach to fitness, and how does it work?
Absolutely. When I do public speaking, I always say, hold up 3 fingers and it makes a W. Now, we do have the jujitsu finger that's broken, but
I've got one too.
but it makes a W. So it's weight training, walking, and watch your diet. I'll just explain that. So we talked about weight training. Most important thing you can do. You as you age, you begin to lose muscle mass.
Yep.
You begin to, and people say, I need to be more flexible. Weight training in its proper range of motion makes you strong and flexible. Meaning flexibility to me is being able to move your joint, your arm in the full range of motion that it's needed to move. Now, if you have an injury, you could add some stretching and things like that. But weight training is my first thing. So I'm using weight training in a progressive, safe fashion, making sure I don't get hurt with it. And that is my first W. That keeps muscle mass up. It keeps BMR up, your basal metabolic rate. It keeps it kicking. Now, if there's anything that exercise does to burn calories, weight training is the best, because building muscle tissue, it takes calories to keep that muscle tissue up. Okay. So that's the first W. The second W is walking. I suggest 30 minutes of walking per day. I suggest doing it outside, and I suggest doing it within 15 minutes after dinner. And it's a very casual walk. You're not looking at a cardiovascular walk, and I'll explain why. I just take a 30-minute casual walk. Now, if that casual walk, what it does, there was a study done years ago, and the study was on a guy measured calorie burn 3 hours after activity. Here's the activities that he looked at. He looked at walking, he looked at eating and walking, and he looked at walking and eating. And so here's what's interesting. Walking and eating beat the others by far. Walking and eating increased BMR, basal metabolic rate, by 25 to 30% 3 hours after the walk. And so let's say that we want to control our body fat levels. We do that by controlling our caloric intake. And obviously, when you get the proper level of protein in the middle of that, everybody's into the big high protein thing now. I think it's questionable, but you have to look at that, and you have to find what fits you in the middle of that. So I use this 30-minute walk, casual walk daily right after dinner. You'll notice it makes you feel better. It aids in digestion. And I say, walk outside. Look at this beautiful creation that we have. Enjoy it. Take pictures on my phone of things that I see when I'm walking. They might preach. I might be able to use them in a podcast. All those things really, really matter. But the walk isn't fast. Now, people will ask, well, what about cardiovascular health? Let me explain something to you about cardiovascular health. Training the way that I train every set to muscular failure. What happens to your heart is you increase what's called stroke volume when you train properly. Okay. What happens in stroke volume is your heart fills up with blood, and then boom, it pushes out blood. So when you train with that 60 to 90 second time under tension set, Adam, when you release the set, you get a large blood flow through your body that goes to your heart. Your heart then takes that blood, it fills up, and then it beats, and it pushes out large volumes of blood. That makes your heart more efficient. For example, I wake up every morning, I have my little oxygen thing and my heart rate thing. I can tell a lot by those. Simple measurement, I put it on my finger. My resting heart rate's 38 because I've been doing this my whole life. People talk about, you want to keep your heart rate elevated for a particular amount of time. I'm doing that in the session. So not only am I continuing a large stroke volume, but when I go from exercise to exercise without rest, your heart is also beating. The more important thing, it's not keeping your heart at this level for a long period of time. The more important thing is having cardiovascular efficiency. You do that through training properly and not resting between sets. So how do you not rest between sets? You do what's called antagonistic muscle groups. I do a pulling muscle group followed by a pushing muscle group. I can still recover the pulling muscle group while I'm doing the pushing muscle group. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Keeping my heart rate up. So that's why we don't need long, hard cardiovascular sessions. Now, you and I, we get them when we roll.
But
But using those properly, and that's what keeps me rolling, is keeping my strength levels up. And then the third W is watching your diet. And most people who come to me, and I've had so many people send me things after reading this book on how much weight that they've lost. But most people come to me and they want to lose weight, and they think that exercise is the answer. I'm like, no. What we have to do is we have to find your caloric range, and then we have to reduce that by about 500 per day. We want it to be gentle. And then what we want to do is we want to do something like adding a gallon of ice cold water per day, which burns over 120 calories, because your body actually has to use energy to warm the water up. That's, the cold water is something that is helpful, but then your body uses that energy. So it's the only non-caloric food that you could actually use. So, and then as far as protein, carbohydrates, and fat levels, I think the most important thing is looking at your protein levels. I don't do a ton of protein because it's just too much on my system. Part of aging gracefully. I don't do what everyone does, Adam. I do what fits me, and I do what fits my clients, and I explain that to them. Had a lady in the other day. I'm sorry, I'm going to go on this tangent.
I love it. Bring it.
Young lady in the other day. I trained her dad over 20 years ago. Her dad was a grinder, super competitive baseball player for SIU. He calls me out of nowhere. I haven't seen him. His name's Tim. I haven't talked to him in years. He goes, Steve, I have a question for you. He goes, my daughter's coming home from college, and she's a volleyball person. She needs to increase her vertical. He goes, I told her I got the guy for you. And I knew Tim, he was not a big guy, but he was tough, man. He was a competitor. The bad thing about competitors is they put their body at risk for that, because they're winners, man. He was a winner, and I knew she'd have injuries coming. I just knew it. Well, she comes in with 2 zippers on her knees, and I'm like, okay, tell me about that. I said, but I can tell you're going to be a grinder because your dad was. So anyway, I start training her, and she comes in and she does the typical college thing. Okay, they're doing power cleans, they're jumping on boxes, but she's just telling me, she's like, I can't do any of that stuff. It just doesn't work for me. I go, well, you shouldn't be. And the reason for that is a ballistic movement. And here's what I mean by that. Think about a power clean, Adam. I'm going to lift this. Let's say I have 100 pounds on the bar. I lift it to this height, right? Then I have to kind of micro suspend it in the air so I can get under it. Okay. Now, once that 100 pounds goes here, it's still 100 pounds. But when I jump under it, guess what? That 100 pounds is coming on me. Now it's 150, 200 pounds. Now we're creating micro trauma in the joints. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's why I don't do ballistic movements. And I was telling her, I go, listen, I'm going to take you through a workout. I'm going to show you exactly what I do. I explain just like I did to you. So I'm taking her through the workout. Really like her. She's really tough, very strong. I get her to like the 3rd or 4th exercise, and I go, listen, I'm gonna, what I do is totally different than what other trainers do. I call myself a 1%er. That's fine. People can do whatever they want. They can be wrong and I can be right. I'm good with that. So anyway, as I go through it, I said, here's the problem. I said, you have exercise scientists and you have exercise physiologists, and they're smart people. Don't get me wrong. They're very smart people. The problem I see with most of them, though, is they don't think outside the box. I'm always thinking outside the box. When I go in the gym, if you look at what everybody does, I know that no one's thought about what they're doing. I just know. I go to church and I think, oh man, I look, well, I'll leave that alone. But I kind of look at things and I think, oh, I see what some preachers are preaching. I'm like, that's not even true. They've only heard other people say those things. I get outside the box. So I tell her, I'm like, hey, listen, I don't follow those. All people do in those studies is they just reiterate what they've been told. They don't experiment on their own. She looks at me and she goes, yeah, I know I'm an exercise science major. I'm like, oops. So
Your foot in your mouth.
but she bought in. I trained her this morning. I said, hey, how's this working? She goes, I love it. And I could tell she's 4 workouts in and she's stronger, man, noticeably stronger. And so once again, you got to think outside the box. And this is my niche, my area, stuff that I like to think about and talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm making differences to people they're sending me pictures. Hey, I've lost this much weight. I feel great. I love that, man.
You can tell just by listening to you, and obviously I'm really close friends with you, so I talk to you about this stuff, but you're like so passionate about it.
I love it.
You do this all day, every day, and you're equally as passionate with every conversation. And I'm not in front of you and your clients, but I can promise with each client, you're treating them like the most important client, right?
They are.
And there's a couple things in this book that I took some notes on that I just couldn't believe. Really, like, it's these little decisions that we make. Like, I can go get a protein shake at 2:00, or I could get a Snickers and a Coke, right?
Yeah.
I could go to Quick Trip, which Quick Trip's my favorite place in the world. I can go to Quick Trip and get a hot dog and a bag of chips, or I can get an apple and a protein shake or something, something healthy.
Yeah.
Right? It's these little tiny decisions. So you wrote, I don't remember what page, but I just took some notes on my sheet here, but just one Reese's peanut butter cup to compensate for that. You got to run 10 minutes. You got a 10-minute jog. Fun size Snickers. There's nothing fun about those little Snickers, by the way.
You got to have big ones, right? If you're going to go Snickers, you got to go all in.
9 minutes. But then I got down here to Twix, a fun size Twix, just a little fun size, 125 calories. You have to jog. You have to jog for 14 minutes to compensate for that little decision that you made. That's crazy to me.
Well, Adam, think about it this way too. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I just it's the little things like that. When I was reading that, I'm like, my goodness, it's these little tiny decisions that we make that can completely put us behind, in our health.
No question about it. Everything I write about it, and I am passionate about this only because I know how important it is. Adam, what a lot of people do is they spend the first 50 years of their life neglecting their health to gain wealth, and then the last part of their life spending their wealth to regain their health. I want to have people having a balance in the middle of that. And so think about the perspective of a Snickers bar, okay? So here's what your body does. When your body gets hungry, it sends a signal from your stomach to your brain in the form of glucagon. And the signal is this: I'm hungry, I'm starving, feed me. It's a God-given signal by the way we've been created to keep us from starving. Now, that takes about 20 minutes for that to hit from your stomach to your brain. When your stomach gets full, it comes up and it comes up and sends a signal to your brain. It's an opposite hormone signal. And the signal is sent, and what happens then, and this signal takes about 30 to 45 minutes to hit your brain. And what it comes down to is it says, hey, I'm full, okay? But if you think about a Snicker bar, when you eat a Snicker bar, your blood sugar shoots through the roof. Your insulin levels shoot through the roof. The problem with hormones in your body, they always overshoot. So you eat a Snicker bar, your blood sugar goes here. Now your body has to put in another hormone to lower the insulin level, which overshoots. Now we're in a hormonal imbalance all day long from that. So, and if you think about what I said earlier, that you were to take a 30-minute walk within 15 minutes of your evening meal, that's 45 minutes. I just explained why by using science using your stomach hormones to create that full signal, the insulin sent to you, the hormone sent to your brain to say, hey, I'm full. So all the things, they work together in the middle of that. You have an apple, which is larger, fills your stomach up better, and balances out your blood sugar because it's got fiber in it, it's got nutrients in it, and it's a slow process.
Can I ask you a question?
Anything.
Is it acceptable on your walk after dinner to walk around with a big glass of wine? Is
water is acceptable?
I didn't know if that was frowned upon.
It just depends what you're looking for.
My fellow Pinot drinkers out there. So I want to really dive in. I want to read something out of the book here in a minute. But before we get into this, there was something that you wrote about some of the major mistakes. And my notes, and I want you to kind of piggyback off of it. The mistakes that add to our problems are lack of direction, not having a coach, not having a trainer, having bad information, reading everything on the internet, thinking it's true, not having goals. You know, I'm working in a mastermind group. My coach, Danelle Delgado, that we've dialed in on our goal setting. And because I'm more dialed in on goal setting, I'm hitting targets faster. It's just amazing. I love it. How it works. Relying on technology, not measuring, being too rigid, and not having a routine. Those are just, I think I wrote most of those setbacks. Could you kind of piggyback off that if you don't mind?
So absolutely. I'll just go with too rigid, okay? Let's say that you are out running around and you're on a diet and you don't have any food available. Hey, listen, sometimes you got to do the quick trip stop, you know, or if you're going to a family birthday party, you know, you don't have to not be involved in that. That's when I talk about rigidity, being too rigid.
Yeah.
But not having a plan.
You're saying it's okay. So Steve, so what you're saying, let me pick back up on this. This is important because there's a lot of people watching this, because the problem is when we decide, oh, I'm going to live a healthier lifestyle. Now we're doing everything by the book, and then we stick with it for 5 days, and then we're back to our old ways, right? So you're saying if I go to a birthday party, it's okay to have a piece of cake every now and then, right?
Adam, it's so important. It's so important because when you go, I can put people on a diet, right? And they're going to grind away, but it's like holding your breath. Eventually you have to breathe. So when people make a mistake, they're like, oh, forget it. I'm just going all the way back in. I don't like diets. I want lifestyle changes. And so that's when we talk about having a plan. You know, you got to have a plan, and then you do have to set goals. The plan is outlined in the book. It's very, very simple. Yeah. But goals are important as well. So
this book, I'm telling you, so I've read it. I read it as soon as I got it. I think I read it in like 2 settings. It's a very easy read. It's not like a short little pamphlet either. It's 200 and something. You're dang near 216 pages, but it's easy to read. It's easy to follow. It's a true blueprint. In my opinion, this is a blueprint on how to live a healthier life. And I don't care if you're 20 or you're 80. I think it's a one size fits all.
Adam, that's the thing. A trained muscle is a trained muscle. It just is, no matter how old you are. Now, the intensity will make a difference with the age, but go ahead.
I just want to read something because I believe in this. And I circled this when I originally read the book. So I'm going to read this quote that you put in here about not having a routine. You'll never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. Dr. John Maxwell. My opinion, he's the best leader in the world. Well, Jesus was, and then John Maxwell. I would say John Maxwell, you know, you rank up there too with John Maxwell, Steve. So, but with that,
thanks, bro.
It's if we continue to do what we're doing now, we're going to continue to get what we've got now. If we're cool with what we got now, then change nothing.
Yeah.
We want more, and I believe we deserve more. It's available. You got to change something. So let me ask you this question. What is the biggest struggle? Like, you know, let's use me for an example. I'm 45 in September. I'm very overwhelmed. My diet, we'll just say diet. I'll use that word diet. My lifestyle eating is hot and cold. Mm-hmm. I need to be more consistent. I'm self-aware enough to know that. My training's okay. How do you get somebody like me to stay on track? You get somebody who comes and sees you, Steve, you're like, hey, listen, I'm kind of like lukewarm with my diet. I'm in the gym. Like, what is the best way to reach me and then keep me in the gym? Because a lot of times people will come in and get excited.
In like a lion, out like a lamb. We talked about that in the book.
See ya. So how do you get somebody that's interested in making a change, but to keep them in this for life?
So here would be my thing for you. My number one thing. You're not overweight, correct?
No. Okay. I would say I could lose 10 pounds.
Okay.
I could probably lose 10 pounds.
If I were working with you, my number one thing would be this. Get your blood work done.
Yeah.
Let's get a baseline. Talk about measuring.
Yeah.
Blood work's going to give us a really good idea. And so then what we look at is maybe there's something out of whack there, and we try to fix that. That's the number one thing. But we do that based on goals. And so I go back to goals. What's the goal? Well, obviously you want to age gracefully, but at the same time, you want to enjoy your life. You want to enjoy your children. You want to enjoy potentially your grandchildren in the middle of that. So we look at those particular things. And then I would also say, you know, as we get you in the gym, we get you set up to where your goals are. But we look at the 80-20 rule. You're going to be good 80% of the time and not good 20% of the time. But I think you have to keep those things in front of you. And Adam, accountability is so important.
Yeah.
That's why I do have clients online that I meet with regularly and just coach them and say, okay, here's where we're at. Here's the adjustments we can make. Yeah, if you want to do the walk with the wine, you don't want to do that every day, but maybe once a week, it's not going to hurt you. So you want to live this moderate lifestyle in the middle of that. And then, like you said, being overwhelmed, I think prioritizing is so vitally important in the middle of that. And, just kind of going from there. You're a go-getter. You do as much as anyone I've ever seen. I love it. I get it motivated by you. So it's fun.
Yeah, but then there's days when you'll call me and you go, "Hey, Adam, are you getting enough sleep? How are you doing?" You see a video and you're like, you good? And I love the fact that you check in on me. I do want to, we got another couple of minutes here and I want to kind of round this out.
Sure.
I wanted to say this last with intention. Everybody wants a quick fix and let's get on a new crash fad or try this new supplement. You wrote in the real food over supplements every time. So let's talk about why real food over supplements. I would love to get your input on some of these new shots out there that folks are taking, like the Ozempics and the maybe the pros and cons and how important it is also to weight train while we're taking those type of drugs. It's
super important.
Right. So if you could, let's talk about real food over supplements.
Okay.
And let's talk about some of these new developments that these new fads in the marketplace, if you don't mind.
Okay. So right now, when I finish this upstairs, I just, I use a little steamer. I steamed some carrots, some celery, brown rice. I have walnuts in it. I actually put raisins in. I have this mix. That's real food. You know what I'm saying? I put some black beans in it just for a little extra protein intake. That's real food. Now, supplements are not alive. You're going to get a metrics bar. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can have those, but you don't want them to be a big part of your lifestyle. That's a food supplement. Now, let's talk about this. A lot of the supplements people take in the form of like energy drinks before a workout and why I don't think those are good. My reasoning is this, that exogenous stimulation. Now, a cup of coffee or two before a workout, I think is reasonable. Some people love the energy drinks before, but here's what I found for me. When I would take something like a Red Bull or something before a workout, I have a normal level of intensity that I can recover from. It gets to be on the high level. But if I take one of those with that exogenous taurine and caffeine and B12 and all the things that are in that, I can work out harder, way harder, but I can't recover from the workout. It's too hard on my body, and eventually it breaks me down. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So you want to find that range of, harder's not always better. We always train hard, but there's just the point of diminishing returns. A good supplement for people, you want to take a multivitamin. Obviously, it's really important. For men, you want to take a prostate support as you begin to age, get to the 50 point. That seems to help. Creatine's a low-hanging fruit, and it does help people. It's very good for cognitive decline as people age. Those are the simple ones. You don't need a ton, with that. But supplements are just that. They supplement a diet. They're not, but most people make I get so many questions on, I'm going to try this new blah, 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 protein, whey protein, different protein. Like, man, just eat a chicken breast. You can try it, but it's not going to help that much. It just isn't. Now let's go to what are they? GP? I can't remember what they are. The Ozempic and
the semaglutides and
semaglutides. Yeah. So here's my take on those. When they first came out
right now, I mean, it's a huge. Yeah.
So so when they first came out, I was like, I'm not sure about these things, but I work with a lot of doctors. And when I go to see when I went to see my doctor, I brought him a copy of this, a signed copy. He was so excited about it. We ended up talking for an hour and a half. I always put everyone behind because he asked me all kinds of questions with that. Wants to get books to his, his patients and things like that. But we were talking about the drugs, and he said, and I think I've trained like 5 physicians, but he said they're magic for people who struggle. They're magic. He says, I got a guy that couldn't get off the couch. I put him on this. He's out doing stuff now. They have, it helps. And so I don't, I'm not a big, drug person, but man, they do help people, they do help people. So I think that if people are thinking about using them, what you look at is you look at how much overweight are they, how much obese are they, and then what are the side effects of obesity versus the side effects of the drugs. And so I think that the side effects of obesity are way worse than the drugs. I'm seeing
Good
people.
Way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to look at that perspective. And then also, it's so vitally important that people weight train when they're on the drugs, because when you lose weight with those, 66% I've read, obviously you can make any statistic up that you want, but a large portion is not fat loss, it's muscle loss and bone loss. The last thing you want, you have to lift weights on those things, because they really do make a difference in the middle of that. So, and we talked about this also, Weight Watchers file for bankruptcy because of those drugs. But I will say this also, the one thing that I would have done differently if I were running Weight Watchers, I'd have been way more honest about what they do. Not that they were dishonest intentionally, but they were throwing things out there like a banana has 0 points or some nonsense like that. You count points, calories matter. And I think that you lose some of those things. I think you have to be, you have to be rigid on what you believe in the middle of that. You can't dance around that. If you're trying to get people results, you can't just take their money and not give them the truth in the middle of it. So I think it's important that people look at those things.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say this. I'll sound off on this note here. This was very educational. Like,
Awesome.
I'm sure, thanks. I'm hoping my people, I've got messages already. People want to know how to get the book. I'm going to go in and post your link in the chat. So, Gospel of Fitness, this is a really wonderful manuscript to have in your household. Buy it, share it with your people. Like for someone like me that employs incredible human beings, I want incredible human beings to live their best life.
Adam, you can measure it.
But this right here, this is a must read, a must buy. I'll put the links. Steve, how can people follow you? What is the best way for people to follow you to connect with you?
Steve Mckinney Fitness on Instagram. Email is steve@fitnessandmore.net. Obviously, Steve McKinney on Facebook, and fitnessandmore.net is my website. If people want to fill out a form for an intro workout, we can talk online, whatever they would need with that. We do coaching and the whole 9 yards. We're hopping though. It's been fun. You've
grown your business. I've been watching it. You work with high-level business executives all over the country. So
it's been fun. The next 2 things, and I'll let you sign off on this, but the 2 things that are big right now, I'm going to do a local one. Somebody invited me, another church pastor invited me. His wife was actually the one, but they want to try to get the community healthy. So that is going to be a fun one. And then I have one of my physicians put my name in the hat. There's over 1,000 physicians. They do like a monthly teaching, but they haven't done anything on fitness. And so I'm really excited about that possibility, because I think that physicians need to be more educated, because I had a client call me and said, oh, my functional medicine doctor said I need to be doing blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, they're wrong about what they're saying, but you can do that. But, we'll have to part ways in the middle of that, because I'm not going to risk injury for a client of mine because of bad advice.
Yeah. It's right. That's the right way to do it too. So
but listen, appreciate you, bro.
Brother. Hey, man, this was really good. This was awesome. Really good. Thank you for everything that you do, and I look forward to talking to you sooner than later, my brother. So I hope you have a great day. For those that watch, thanks for joining in. Connect with my boy Steve. We wanted to put this out here. Steve and I have been talking about doing this for the last couple of weeks. This book has been a massive success. It's just helping so many people. So get yourself a copy. Follow my boy Steve. And Steve, I'll talk to you sooner than later, brother.
Dude, bro. Thanks, man.
Yeah. All right.